So getting back, I mentioned a few of the names there that we're kind of looking at as underperforming dudes, and I wanted to do this. You know, I feel like there's some sort of middle ground between Hall of Famer and somebody that needs to be DFA'd the second they go 0 for 4. We've seen a few offers from Muncy and Pages. Who are you more concerned about? Like, if we're looking, we're trying to put on our Nostradamus hat and we're looking ahead in the season. Who is a bad season harms the Dodgers more? I'm saying this all wrong, but you get my point. Pages bad season or Muncy bad season? What is worse for this team?
I think Muncy is worse for the team if he continues to struggle like this because of a couple of reasons. A, more is expected from Muncy. Muncy is supposed to be one of your thumpers. You know, Pages, it was, we were hoping he'd hit because he doesn't do much on defense. But Pages, if he doesn't play better, you can eventually replace him with somebody. Yeah. Muncy, there's no obvious replacement. And whoever would replace Muncy wouldn't hit 35 home runs like we're expecting Muncy to do. So, you know, whether it's Muncy that's a downgrade from our Muncy expectations or a replacement who's a downgrade from that, there's the higher expectations for Muncy means that he's more important to the team.
Need to start seeing something out of that dude. Need to start seeing a little bit more out of that dude. You know, he had the little bit of breakout 3-hit game coming off of that, getting rid of the torpedo bat, puts up the double, game-tying double and all that, but still, just ups and downs of a long season, and you can see the frustration when it comes to Max Muncy. He is going to get some help coming up. Of course, this homestand opens with the return of Freddie Freeman. We already see Hunter Fiducia optioned to AAA, opening the door, paving the way for the return of Freddie Freeman, and my God, like, just in these first couple of weeks where we've only seen Freddie and Mookie in the same lineup twice, it's a dumb question I have for you here, but how much does Freddie Freeman help this lineup?
Lots. Is that a good enough answer? Like,
back to you in the studio.
You think whoever Freddie's replacing in the lineup, obviously he's replacing Kike defensively, but if Kike shifts over to third for a game, so Freddie's replacing Muncy. If Kike goes to second and Edman goes to center, so it's Freddie replacing Pages. Whoever is out of the lineup because Freddie is back in on any given game, Freddie is a much better hitter than that person. And so you are taking the worst hitter, one of, these 3 or 4 guys who are fighting for the title of worst hitter on the Dodgers right now. One of those guys is going to be on the bench because Freddie Freeman's there instead. Yeah. And imagine at the trade deadline saying, hey, we just traded Andy Pages for Freddie Freeman. You'd be like, sign me up for the World Series right now. I mean, that's whether it's Pages or Kike or Muncy or whoever, Rojas, when he's going to be in the game, Freddie Freeman is an upgrade over everybody.
And I've complained a lot in recent days about the bottom of the lineup, rightfully so. Getting somebody like Freddie back in this lineup, it just helps 1 through 9 so dang much when we're talking about. I mean, there's been a lot of praise, a lot of glaze for one Mr. Tommy Edman, who's done well hitting third for this team. But if you're talking about getting Freddie back in that 3 hole and moving Tommy down, just hear me out on this 1 through 9 here. You got Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Teo, Tommy, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Michael Conforto, and Andy Pages. Doesn't that just feel a lot better, everybody? Like, just the room, does everybody taste that?
Yeah. Can I throw out a crazy idea?
Absolutely. And why not?
I know all the sabermetric reasons why you don't do this, but how about Tommy Edman 9th?
Oh,
so you've got a better hitter, ton of speed, on base in front of Shohei. So the fact that Shohei has 4 homers and 5 RBIs is criminal. And having Tommy Edman on base means more 2-run homers for Shohei, more RBI doubles for Shohei. Even Tommy steal a base, and guess what? Then they intentionally walk Shohei. Guess what? That's what we want them to do because it always backfires for every team that intentionally walks Shohei. Whatever, all the benefits there. The one downside is, if you're talking Edman batting 5th or 6th versus batting 9th, that's 40 fewer plate appearances over the course of a season, that you're giving to somebody. But I mean, if we're talking about, you've still got Pages 8th. If you're giving those at bats, basically they're split. Those 40 at bats that aren't going to Edman are split between Smith and Conforto and Muncy theoretically, it's not that much of a downgrade. And I think what you're gaining from having Edman there, like starting, second leadoff man, it's what you tell a kid in Little League to make him feel better about batting ninth. But in the major leagues, it's actually a thing where having a good hitter on base in front of or batting before Shohei to give Shohei a better chance of driving in runs. I love that idea.
Kevin, I want your thoughts on it, but first, also, folks in the chat, sound off. What do you think about Tommy Edman batting ninth? Just coming up with this now, I think maybe this voice of reason fella, maybe he's pretty smart at doing some baseball things. Maybe you know a thing or two about baseball, because I really love Tommy Edman batting ninth. I think it makes a lot of sense for this team, and we've seen like Gavin Lux have some success for this team and help this team batting ninth. Now imagine a better version. Somebody like Tommy Edman. But Kevin, give me your thoughts about Edman ninth.
That's where I was going to go immediately, was the whole when Gavin Lux was a member of the Dodgers and we were all, had higher expectations for him. I was always an advocate of him batting ninth because he provides something to the lineup that the kind of doesn't have. We don't really have like kind of a slappy singles guy get on base, be a base threat anymore with Chris Taylor, falling off a cliff the last 3 years. So you get Tommy Edman to replace him in that role at ninth. Not only that, I like it because I'm not a fan of big top-heavy lineups. I don't like the idea of, I know this is crazy, but 1 through 6 is really difficult for any for any pitcher against the Dodgers, of course. But then you kind of get a reprieve 7, 8, and 9. That's a whole inning. You just kind of give an inning at that point with the 7, 8, 9 hitters hitting the way they are. If you flip that a little bit and 1 through 5 are really difficult, but then, the 9 hitter is not an easy out either.
Yeah.
Then you break that up. It makes it a little bit more difficult. And to Jeff's point about it only giving 40 less at bats to Tommy Edman, the batting order really only matters the first time through the lineup anyway.
Yeah.
Once you get through it, like you just care more about handedness really. And that's where on base percentage matters a hell of a lot more. Getting in front of Shohei matters a lot more to get those RBI opportunities. So, and a lot of players will say that it only matters the first time through. Some have come out and said that it really, really matters where they're hitting. But I am a fan of having somebody in front of Shohei get on base, and also just breaking up this lineup a little bit where really feels like you have like the same batter for like 4 dudes in a row.
Yeah, there's a lot of things where it does make a lot of sense. I do want to talk more Andy Pages in a second, but Pages has kind of mentioned, batting ninth. This is something the kid has never really done in his life. So putting him in that 9 hole, and he's mentioned, I think it was in the LA Times today, there was an article or something like that. Maybe it came out yesterday, but he mentioned being a different role for him, kind of being the dude who's trying to take some more pitches as opposed to going up there and just trying to let the bat, do the work, let it thump a little bit. I think it plays better for him. And if you have Tommy all of a sudden in that 9 hole, suddenly in the 8 hole is Pages. Maybe he feels a little bit better there, or you can move him up higher or something like that. If you want to keep Conforto and the way I lined up the lineup here a little bit, but going Teoscar to like Conforto to Will Smith, and then you have Muncy, Pages, Tommy Edman. I think it just feels right. That feels pretty dang right to me. Will the Dodgers be smart? Will my friend Dave Roberts be listening to this edition of the show? Probably not, but I think we did some good work here, boys.
For the record, I just want to say I like this idea. I'm not so bold to say it's the smart idea. I like it.
It's the only way they're going to win is if they listen to you.
Several minutes ago, there was a note in the chat from Dan who threw out another idea, which was Muncy batting ninth instead of Edman, because Muncy, he's going to get some walks.
Yeah.
Getting on base in front of Shohei. And
at his best, he is a guy who takes
the other
walks,
side of it is he's going to get more pitches to hit too. And so I think Muncy maybe is a little too in his head about strike zone stuff right now. So maybe him being in a spot where he is more likely to get pitches in the strike zone because Shohei Ohtani's on deck, then maybe that helps him jump out. And then that, with Pages, you were mentioning that maybe batting ninth isn't right for him. You put Pages 8th and Muncy ninth. Maybe that helps both of them, keeps Edman a little bit higher in the lineup, so you're losing fewer of his plate appearances. At that point you could put him kind of wherever. Muncy doesn't have the speed advantage like Edman does, so less likely to score from first on a Ohtani double, but he can still score from first on an Ohtani homer.
You know what's funny is, I don't know if you guys recall, because I don't even remember how it came back into my ethos very recently, or I just popped in front of my eyes. But anyways, you remember the Dodgers going out and trading for this dude named Mookie Betts, and for the first couple months of that 2020 season, not months, weeks, Dave had Max batting leadoff.
Yeah.
That's that's funny. But I like, what, another not terrible idea there, because Muncy right now kind of feels like he doesn't have a spot in the lineup. He's getting dropped down a little bit more. And I think, having that Shohei protection, I agree with that a lot. Having him bat ninth, then he's back to being that second leadoff hitter in a way. And
and tell him, look, we don't need you hitting home runs right now. Your job is to be on first base when Shohei Ohtani bats.
Yeah.
And so, which is maybe the scariest place in the world to be.
Weight off his shoulders.
But, just let him just be there and say, okay, if they're giving you pitches to hit me some line drives. Don't worry about home runs, because we got Shohei and Mookie and Freddie coming up. Hit me some line drives and take your walks if they're not giving you pitches to hit. I think that might be the thing that gets Muncy back into Muncy mode.
Kevin,
I think it'd have to be eighth. I mean, I kind of ascribe to this as well, but I know for a fact the Dodgers do. Is you have two left-handers going 9-1, and that just gives opposing teams a lane with relief pitching, or just their starters in general. You kind of line them up, for some tough facing some tough pitchers.
But if one of those lefties is a guy who you can pinch hit for with Kike Hernandez and the other one's Shohei Ohtani, maybe that's not the end of the world.
I get it, but I would hate taking. I don't know if Max would love being pinch hit for either. That might not go over very well in that clubhouse.
But maybe we're at that point in his career.
Maybe I would say having him hit eighth would be just as possible. The reason Edman works great ninth is he's a switch hitter, so there is no lane. You're you get a good matchup regardless of how you line it up. So if you go Muncy, Edman, Shohei, something like that, then maybe we're talking lefty still kind of gets an easy lane there, but you're breaking it up with Tommy Edman, who's better from the right hand side anyway. So that's just I have no issue. Whatever fixes Max. I don't care where he hits necessarily, but that is the one, I don't know, wrench that I could see thrown into that plan.
Yeah, and I would say we're still a couple of weeks away. A couple of weeks of the bottom of the lineup doing next to nothing before we see Dave decide to make a little bit of that change. We know this team is kind of slow to pull the trigger on what I'm going to call Jeff's brilliant idea of somebody like Tommy Edman batting ninth, the World Series winning idea, or even Muncy batting ninth. I like both those ideas because I think it gives both of those guys a different look, and I think it gives the top of the order something to work with as well, because I think on the broadcast in Washington, Joe Davis had noted, or maybe it was Carroll that had noted that it was 4 or 5 homers for Shohei Ohtani and 6 or 7 RBI. There's nobody on base, so he needs more ducks on the pond to do more damage. Just as a guy who drove in 130 runs last year, and you need some runners on in front of him to be able to drive in, knock a few more points in. So
the funny thing is, the only time Chris Taylor has been on base this year, he became the only non-Shohei Ohtani person to score on a Shohei Ohtani home run this year. Chris Taylor is 1 for 1 in scoring on Shohei Ohtani home runs when he gets on base. #math, baby.